All right, welcome back to the Empowered Boss Moms Summit. I am here with the lovely Jess, who is the owner of the design and print shop Long Story Short, that is based out of Australia, but is also online. So welcome, Jess. I'm so excited to have you here. And I feel like you're going to offer like a very unique perspective on everything that you've been doing as well.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. We work with only small businesses, so we're really sort of in the community. So hopefully I have something, valuable to offer.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with our rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, so question number 1, where are you from?
So I'm from Sydney, Australia. Currently live on the north side of the bridge.
Okay. All right. So for anyone who's in Australia, you know what Jess is talking about. All right. So number 2, how many kids do you have and what are their ages?
I've got 2 daughters. I've got one daughter, Penny, who's almost 4 in April. So she's at that crazy all over the house all the time age. And then I've got a 4-month-old as well.
Oh, great. And so question number, absolute worst point in your business and how you felt.
This is a really big one. There's been a few. I think the hardest time was, and probably for a lot of businesses as well, was early 2020, and we just didn't know what was going to happen with COVID. And I remember early March, I think it was about 8th of March, and they announced the pandemic and we were dead quiet for 3 days, like the most quiet we've ever been. And then on the 4th day, it was a Wednesday, emails started flooding in, like orders, so many orders. And from that point on, for the rest of 2020, the business just absolutely exploded, which was absolutely incredible. But the problem was we weren't set up for it, and we didn't know how to handle it. And we were in lockdown and, everything else that was going on in the world. So I think just that middle ground between growing and then what we needed to do to get to that next point. And it was really, really stressful.
All right. I would love to dive a little bit more into that as we move on. So let's just kind of pinpoint that. So interesting. Okay. So number 4, which entrepreneur inspires you the most?
I thought about this a lot, and to be honest, I don't have a particular personal personality. However, because we do deal with so many small businesses on a daily basis, I find it really interesting working with my customers. And I've got like candle businesses that might start a business making toilet brushes, or just really random. Our customers are entrepreneurs, whether they know it or not. And so they do tend to sort of cross different industries and paths. And I find that really, really interesting.
Okay, awesome. So your customers are your biggest inspiration. I love that.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
And so number 5, something that you still don't like doing in your business to this day.
Yeah. So kind of ironically, I actually don't like working on the business. I like working in the business. I like answering emails. I like writing invoices. I like packing orders. That's where I feel most comfortable. Once you start getting on the marketing side and the NPD, so like new product development, that's the side that I'm good at, but I don't enjoy. I just enjoy working in the business.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. And number 6, when was the last time you cried?
Again, I thought about this. I would probably say when my daughter was born 4 months ago, she caught a virus from my older daughter from daycare and ended up in hospital in the first week of her life. And I had to, this is after labor, and so I hadn't slept. And I had to spend a week in hospital while still working and putting on a brave face and still, turning up to meetings. And that's what you just have to do in business. You can't say, oh, I can't do this, my daughter's sick. So I think there was a lot of crying during that week.
Okay. Oh, wow. Incredible. And number 7, what's the best thing about having a business and kids?
Yeah. the flexibility of it, and it is flexible, and while it is completely overwhelming and it is a 24-hour job, you can put your phone down, you can put your laptop down, and I can have them with me all the time. If they don't want to go to daycare, they can spend the day with me. And my older daughter in particular, really loves going to the workshop, the print shop, and seeing what's going on. So it's really cool, her pretending to like make sales and emailing her customers, and that's really cool to watch.
Amazing. It's so inspiring for her, I bet.
Yeah.
7.5, what's the worst thing about having a business and kids?
Yeah, the overwhelm. There is a lot, especially in the early days of the business, and then having the really young babies. There's a lot of overwhelm and just what you should be doing when, and so much going on. Yeah, that's definitely challenging.
For sure. And number 8, what's one thing you really hate that people say in your industry?
I consider my industry the small business world, as opposed to design and print, which is, I don't have a background in. But I think I struggle when people think that it's all about sales and selling and making money, and it's not. There's so much more to it. There's so much more value you can get out of having a small business or a side business. So I try to, as much as I can, shift people's thinking away from, I have to make sales to show that I'm a success.
Beautiful. I like that. And number 9, what's your daily non-negotiable for moving your business forward?
Just that we're always moving forward, and not to ignore problems. There's always issues that, there's always going to be challenges. And so we often, my business partner and I sit down and talk about our issues and how we can get past. And it could be the smallest thing. It's like, how can we get past that? And I think you have to keep on doing that and keep on trying to be, as good of a business owner and a person as possible.
Amazing. And number 10, the best business advice that you've ever been given?
Yeah, so there's 2. There's the KISS principle, which is keep it simple, stupid. I think it's seriously, like, you don't have to overcomplicate things. On so many levels, I follow that. And also, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. And that's another one that I remind myself of a lot, that if you do want to do better and you have to put work into that, and you have to sort of keep striving to change things and move forward.
Amazing. You're speaking my language with those 2 things. I feel like those 2 things are so paramount for me as well. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit more of mom boss, right? And let's go back to that little pinpoint that we're talking about. So in around March, April 2020, income ballooned. What did that look like? And how did that feel, given that you had one baby there, right? She's probably like 2 or 3 at that time?
I think she was about 2. Yeah.
And so what kind of lessons did you learn there?
Yeah, it was a really, really challenging period, because we are quite well known in the industry, and it's interesting with us because we are known as a small business, and we are a small business, and we're part of the small business community. But at the same time, our customers know, and they need us to be as efficient, as good, as much quality as the big businesses, because the really big printing businesses in Australia, they're cheap, they're fast, they're really good at what they do. And so being at that middle point where it's like we have to offer that, but we have to also offer the community feel and the personalized touch. And during and coming back to it during COVID, that's where it got really difficult, because how do you offer both of those things? And what we did, I literally devoted the year, and I can't tell you how many times I cried, and like it was just, it was so painful but so enriching at the same time, we had to put in systems, and we had to create these systems from scratch. We weren't, modeling it off another business. We are completely different. Even though we offer similar services, we sort of bring it together and bundle it in a very different way. So me, with no experience, and my business partner Cynthia with no experience trying to do all of this, we really had to backtrack. We had to set up these systems, and we didn't know who to go to. We didn't know who to ask. We didn't know who could help us. So it was a massive learning curve, and it was sort of layering and creating that depth of our business. And so we created systems, and those systems ended up being, a lifesaver for us. And it made us so much better as a company. But I guess COVID just taught us that we couldn't just keep doing what we were doing if we wanted to grow. It just wasn't sustainable. Our mental health was suffering. We were obviously doing really well as a business, and lots of businesses weren't as well. So I guess it was difficult admitting that and being open about that, because no one wants to be out there saying we're doing really well. Our problem is that we're getting too many sales when other people are really suffering. So there was that as well.
Mm-hmm. And when did you start the business? Did you start the business before or after having your first girl?
We probably set it up when I was on maternity leave from work. It was a slow progression into the business. We didn't really know at the time that we were setting up, long story short. It was just sort of doing it for fun. And there was a few years before that where I guess I was always setting up these little businesses, but I didn't really realize that I was creating the foundations and meeting the right people in the industry. And then I went on mat leave, and I don't watch TV. I don't sit there doing nothing. And I must have said to Cynthia one day, let's just do this. Cynthia was a friend that I just met online in one of the business groups, and we had always spoken. She lives in Melbourne. And when Penny was about 4 months old, I booked a flight to go and stay with Cynthia for a week. Had no idea, I'd never met her. We'd obviously worked closely together for a while. Got a plane and got to her place, and then we really spent a week really deep in thought and nutting it out, and that's when we bought our first printer. So it was never the plan. It was never the path that we thought we would take. It just happens. And mat leave is a really good time to, even though you've got a baby, it's a time you can really, let off the shackles of the rest of the world and just focus on you and what you want to do, and have a pretty clear head, even sleep deprived a little bit. Yeah. But I think it's a really good time for people to do it. And I tell a lot of my friends during mat leave, try and do something a little bit different. It doesn't have to be a business.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's such an introspective time, because I remember, and so my story is actually pretty similar. I just kind of stumbled upon entrepreneurship. My dad has almost always been an entrepreneur since I could remember. But he never was just you should totally do this because you'll have time for me. It was always no, you need to get a government job, because I'm Canadian.
Yeah.
Government jobs in Canada are really good. And it's just, this is the track that you need to go on because it's safe and it's secure. Don't do what I do. Yet it was I also saw him being able to take holidays whenever he wanted to. He'd always come home for lunch because he was I don't want to eat at Burger King. I want to eat my home cooked food. And it was almost a do as I say, but then it was also but watch what I do. Right.
Yeah.
And I just happened to stumble upon it because I was in yoga and wellness coaching at the time. And I didn't even know that what I was building was a business. I just wanted to share more yoga with the world. And then when I started understanding that it was in fact a business, and when I started hiring my own business coaches for it, I was oh, hey, this actually hits off every single thing that I've ever wanted to manifest for myself.
It's the best way to start a business.
Right?
Because then you have no expectations. You're just doing it because you enjoy it, and you're not trying to get anything back out of it.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. And I was just learning, web design. I learned how to do everything on WordPress. It was insane. Like for the first 2 years, I was just learning, 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 learning. Of course, then after that, it becomes a certain point in time where it's like, okay, you also need to start making money if you're a business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And yeah, like it just seemed to tick off all of the boxes of everything that I had ever wanted. However, on the other side of that was also all of the risk of business, right? Which was something that was probably the reason why I'd never started a business in the first place, because I was so risk averse. Um, and so tell us a little bit more about how, long story short, kind of grew to what it has been, and the risks that you've had to take, like even as a mom, and even kind of just going through this whole like I want to be the provider for my children, but at the same time I have to be this business owner, and and you have to be a leader in on both fronts. So tell us kind of a little bit of the progression of that for you.
Yeah, I think with us, there's just been, it's a melting pot of really like luck. Not that the business grew by luck, but luck and hard work and, supportive people around us. My mum helps a lot. My husband's really supportive. We were very lucky. When we first started, it was Cynthia and myself, and we were getting really, really busy. And Cynthia was operating a printer. She's not a printer by trade, but she knew how to use it. And we were running out of Melbourne, and it got to the point where I said to her, we were just chatting on Facebook, I'm like, we're really busy. Do you want to ask Eugene if he wants to come and work for us? This is her husband. And an hour and a half later, he quit his job. He was so ready to. And then, and he brought a lot of value to our team. And then similarly, about 6 months after that, my dad, who has worked in printing for my whole life, again, I'll backtrack a little bit, but nothing to like me starting in the business. Had nothing to do with my dad. But he was unhappy at work. And I said to him, look, come and work for us while you look for another job. And that was, I can't remember, maybe about 4 years ago now. And he joined, and he has so much knowledge. And it's funny because he considers himself, he's like the pinnacle of long story short behind the scenes. Like he knows so much more than the rest of us. He's really amazing at what he does. He's really amazing at managing people. And people don't realize, like they look at me as at the face of the business, but he's really the one behind the scenes with all the knowledge, creating an absolutely amazing product. But going back to your question, I think we did well, and it was just a bit of a spiral of growth because the industry really needs something like long story short. And I guess I haven't really explained this, but how we're different. There's a million designers out there, graphic designers, and there's amazing designers. There's also a lot of print shops, a lot of sticker shops. So that sort of side isn't really unique either. But like anything, like if you're building a new kitchen or a new bathroom, or you don't know who to trust. You don't know, okay, I've got 10 different quotes. How are they all different? This person does this, but this person does this. And I guess what we try and do is bring it all together to make it a really accessible service that the language we use is for the layperson. It's not a print shop that's designed for, corporates or designers to use. I have no background in design or printing, so I've, used the terminology that makes sense to me, I guess. So we do work quite differently, and we try to be accessible to our customers. There's challenges to that, of course, because there's reasons why designers and print shops work the way that they do. But at the same time, we try and we just try and make it as accessible as possible. And I mean, we didn't advertise for the first few years of being in business. It was literally just word of mouth, and we just grew organically. And as the work came in, then we went out and bought more machines, or put on a new person. So there has been risk, but it's been quite and there's probably more risk than ever now, but it's been quite slow, and we've done things as we've needed them, and then we've scaled back sometimes when we've realized, okay, that wasn't really necessarily the right position to be filled, or that wasn't the right machine to buy, and that happens too. So yeah, it's just a slow progression. I try not to put too much pressure. We both try and not put too much pressure on ourselves, and just do what we can do. And obviously the kids come into that as well. Cynthia's got 3 kids.
Wow.
She's also had 1 baby on the journey, and that was really hard because she was sick for the full 9 months of that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think I would also love to just like really quickly also touch on that point, because I feel like there are some people who are watching the summit who already have kids and are just like, okay, how do I juggle all of this? And so I feel like there's 2 more points that I feel like would be really, really great for everyone here. Is, well, one of them, you know, like productivity, efficiency, all of that kind of stuff. What have you learned from being a mom and a business owner, and how to kind of just like juggle the 2 and juggle your time? And also 2, kind of branching off everything that we've spoken about, there are also people who are watching the summit who are thinking about being moms, or thinking about being dads, or maybe are pregnant, or maybe are on maternity leave. So they are in this phase where they're just like, what can I expect? And I know that for myself, one of the reasons why I decided to quit my 9 to 5 and move to Nicaragua from Canada and do my coaching business from here is because I knew I wanted to be a mom. And I knew that one of the ways that I would kind of facilitate that for myself was to be able to take the time and be the owner of my time, rather than having someone else, rather than having to drop off my kid at daycare. But for me, the whole idea of having a business and being pregnant and then giving birth, I was just like, well, what happens to the business when that happens, right? Like everyone is telling you that you have to be on your baby 24/7. And it was a really difficult time because I didn't know who to ask. I didn't know who had the right, quote unquote, right answer for me, because no one else that I knew had their own business while at the same time having a baby. Yeah. So whichever one of those 2 things you want to answer first in terms of your own perspective, feel free.
I guess my biggest piece of advice, I'm not very productive. I'm not organized. I'm all over the place, and that's okay. So I just accept that. There you go. I accept that about myself. Like I'm just, I don't do routine, none of that. Outsource as much as possible, and outsource the stuff that doesn't bring you joy. It doesn't necessarily, like, as an example, I literally pay someone quite a lot of money per, in the month. Number one, I've got someone who is myself. So I am her assistant as opposed to her being my assistant. And secondly, I have someone who their only job is to try and look forward for the business and think of new ideas and create content and all of the things that I guess a normal business owner should do. And these things don't have to be expensive. There's lots of ways of doing it. There's lots of Facebook groups. There's lots of programs. Something like Canva, which is really amazing. I'm sure you guys use over there now too. There's lots of ways of doing things where you don't really have to put too much effort in. It's outsourcing, whether it's a program or whether it's a person, but you can just focus on the part of the business that you want to do. And to answer your second question, probably in another roundabout way, it's actually a lot easier than you think. And I think it's easier what I do, as much as there are really, really, really low and horrible days. The days where I wake up and I feel really good and I think let's do something really cool today, like far outnumber those terrible days. And having a baby is challenging, but I think that being a mum, even for me, and to be honest, I'm not the most maternal person. It hasn't come naturally. But at the same time, it does come naturally. It is a natural thing. It's very easy to Penny, my first baby, I breastfed for 18 months, and I breastfed her while I was answering emails. Like, I've got 2 hands. It's not that hard. Do you know what I mean? So yes, there are challenges, but every challenge does pass. It does get easier. It was really difficult when Penny was a little baby and we were going through a lot of growth and a lot of scaling of the business. But as she got older, she learned how to amuse herself, and my husband was able to help more as she got older as well. So, you know, there's challenges to everything. There would be a lot of challenges if I went back to work as well. And at least, as you said, at least now I own my own time and I can lie in bed on my phone answering emails while I'm patting the baby. For me, I feel like, what else would I be doing? If I wasn't answering emails, what else would I be doing? I would just be, you know, lying there looking up at the ceiling. I don't know. But no, I encourage anyone who who wants to try something. You've just got to do it, and you've just got to start.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I think that's such a nice way to just kind of culminate everything that you spoke about. I feel like that's so empowering. Your business is so incredibly successful. And so I'm happy to see and to be able to interview someone who is really successful with what they're doing. And at the same time, it's just, you know, like very unapologetic about the fact that you don't have a routine.
Yeah.
You probably don't have the best organization skills, because I think a lot of people really feel like you have to have those things. You have to have all of those things figured out. And it's always the limiting beliefs are always like, I can't do it because I don't have time management skills, or I can't do it because I'm not super organized. I'm not an organized person either. I have like really bad tunnel vision. I'm always, my husband always jokes around with me, and he's just like, look at your desk, right? Like I have things on my desk where it's just like, I had them just sitting there for a month and I just don't put them away because I'm always so hyper-focused on the thing that's right in front of me.
Yeah.
But yet that serves me really well too. You know what I mean? And I think that when we all lean on our strengths and just trust ourselves with those strengths, and also trust that we can't be bad parents. You know, if you're already consciously aware of the fact that you want to bring a child into the world, or you have a child, like you're not going to mess that part up. And I think that's another thing that a lot of people are afraid of, is this whole like, well, am I robbing my child of time with me? Do you want to touch on that at all?
Yeah, definitely. And look, especially with Penny, my oldest, that guilt was there in the beginning. And there were a couple of actual business decisions that I made, because one was a big mistake that I made that cost me a lot of money, and I could have got out of that mistake if I could have spent some time on it. But I thought, you know what's my time worth with my daughter? And so I thought, you know what, I'd rather spend $1,000 or whatever it was to get out of this mess, and spend the time with my daughter. So I think it's about the decisions that you make as well. It's always going to be a difficult one. As I said, even if you go back to work, it's difficult. Every mum, I think, has this feeling that, I have to be better. I have to be this Insta mum. I have to be this thing that doesn't exist. But I think now that she's getting older, and we go to the warehouse, which is about 15 minutes from us, we go there and she absolutely loves it. And I can see that, okay, while I guess there was that period of time where I was spending on the business as opposed to with her all the time, now that she's a bit older, she gets so much out of it, and she loves seeing like what her mum does and what my dad, she calls him Phil, not Pup or anything, but like what Phil's doing, and like she loves being a part of it. And I think as she grows older, like what an amazing gift to give her, that she can work for us a bit if she wants. She doesn't have to, but that opportunity to have that family business is there for her should she want it. So I think it comes later, even if it's just a trade-off, like everything.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's so great. And that's so empowering. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing everything about your business, about your knowledge. Where can people find you? So if they want to find out more about Jess, if they want to find out more about Long Story Short, where would you like to send them?
Yeah, so we service the entire world. So we have quite a few customers in Canada, in the States, in the UK, lots in Singapore and Hong Kong. You can find us www.longstoryshortdesign.com.au, and everything you can find is there. And then if you have any questions, designing and printing can be a pretty big thing because it is all custom. So obviously, if you have any questions, you can email us. But we would, if you've got a small business, if you're thinking about starting a small business, whether it's service or products, we can help, and we'd love to hear from you.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us, Jess.
No worries. Nice to meet you.